know you'll see your face again.
Yeah.
Like, I swear no one else knows that song.
No, do they not?
What? The Verve?
Everybody knows that song.
Alright, I just wanted to make sure. Like,
Are we recording?
Shane was looking a bit like he didn't know. Yeah, you know that song?
No, I don't know that song.
Fair play. See, I knew someone did.
You're going to sing it for us, Ed?
I think we should start the podcast off with you singing.
Yeah.
With my voice like this.
We don't need
cold,
intro music.
Yeah, I know I do have a beautiful voice, but
I actually can't tell any difference between your voice right now.
it's a bit like it hurts. I have a sore throat, so yeah. But anyway, but I'm
I feel
here.
like you're milking it a bit.
Hey, I turned up. What can I say? You know what I mean?
That's true, you turned up, mate.
Cold, man.
Alright. But anyway, yeah, this is the new Type Men podcast. Like, Nab's working, so he can't be here. So it's just me, Shane, Mike, and Jazz.
Working in inverted commas.
Yeah.
No,
You missed the hand
actually working.
quotations.
One of the few days he does. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'll have to cut that out. I'm not gonna cut that out. Anyway, yeah. So what are we starting with? We're talking about drugs, yeah.
I don't know, let's talk about drugs. It's an accessible topic.
Yeah, and it's very topical. It's,
Indeed.
Been in the news. So all the Tory leadership hopefuls are having to come out, and it's basically like who did what drugs arm race. It all stems from when they asked Theresa May what the worst thing she did was. She's like, oh, I ran through a wheat field once with my friends in like 1829. And then they asked someone else, and they're like, oh yeah, when I was in serving in Afghanistan, I smoked opium.
Did someone actually say that?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Who said that?
Rory Stewart. So
Whoa,
he was.
damn, okay.
She was like, yeah. So I ran through a wheat field. I ran through a poppy field.
Is it wrong of me?
Poppies en route.
Is it
He's front runner, isn't he?
No,
I've seen-
no. He's like a.
You sure? I saw a poll where he was just ahead of Boris as the front runner.
It's probably with people who aren't the Tory membership.
is it wrong of me of wanting to hear more of that than their policies?
Yeah, but that's what they were talking about. And then in the news yesterday or today it was, I think. But Michael Gove admitted to smoking, doing a few lines of coke when he was a journalist in his 30s, and he's sort of been called a massive hypocrite because around that time he was also writing articles about how there should be harsher punishments on harsher, sort of more intense criminalisation on people doing drugs for recreational use.
Oh, God.
And it's just like
Damn.
face palm. Hypocrisy.
It does humanise them a little bit, though. Like,
Still, he wanted to be principled. If they're gonna like put something out in public to say we shouldn't do something, they should like live by it as well.
that's true, but I mean,
was it private
again,
morality, public morality?
on the flip side, you can't really say that you're for banning all of these things if you've never really tried it yourself. I think it's one of those things like you experience it and then have an opinion rather than just having an opinion without experiencing
But you
it.
can experience the effects of it, and if you say, I don't know, like friends of yours have had addictions, and obviously it's been quite a negative experience for you, even without having tried it, maybe that might prompt you to.
I suppose you're right. Yeah,
I wouldn't.
You could see the
yeah.
effects in someone else and think to yourself, right, okay, maybe that's bad. But yeah,
I wouldn't argue against someone who had that position based on that.
Yeah.
No, they hadn't done it. At least that's what I'm saying anyway. Mike, you back? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just finishing my stew off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice stew.
well, I'm
That's
gonna
right. Yeah, it was good.
Cool.
I'm gonna come out and say that I'm for the decriminalisation of drugs for recreational purposes.
What drugs?
Well, obviously not the ones that you can die from having one hit, like not those sorts of drugs.
So not the best ones.
Not the best ones.
Not the good ones.
But there's a reason for it, because I had this conversation with one of my ex-work colleagues, and I was talking from the point of decriminalising marijuana, and my argument was that if marijuana and alcohol had just been introduced to us yesterday, I guarantee alcohol would be class A and marijuana would be a lower class of drug, just because of the effects that alcohol has on people, like the instant effect, like for instance vomiting in the streets, violence, drunk driving, stuff like that.
It's like taking a sledgehammer to your liver.
Yeah.
It's just cultural, the fact that we find that acceptable and other things not.
Indeed.
I'm not being funny as well. I mean, I've been to Amsterdam 3 times, and they are the nicest bunch of people ever. No jokes. And I'm not saying for one second that every person who lives in Amsterdam smokes weed, but there's probably a large proportion of them that do, and that you don't get any trouble over there with the locals.
And I think that's part of the reason why they're like that, is because it's not sort of deemed taboo. It's almost like, well, it's not something that we shouldn't be doing. So there's no like sort of there's no impetus to want to do it because it's wrong.
Well, it reminds me of that. Do you remember back in the day the Street song? I think it was it Law Abiding Citizen or something, whatever it was, where he does the voice of a couple of gamers, and they're like, "Oh, we just like to smoke weed and talk about how fit Gail Porter is." And then he goes, and then there's the other guy who's like, "I'm a law-abiding citizen," and
I remember that song.
Down 12 pints and smash up people.
Yeah,
like Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, exactly.
But, see, there's something to it.
No, absolutely. I mean, the other thing is that if it was beyond sort of decriminalised, even if it was legalized in some respects, you'd actually know what you were doing. There'd be a lot more guidance.
Yeah.
So say sort of MDMA or something, when you buy something illegally, you have no idea what you're taking. There'd be far more guidance on this is a safe amount to take. This is this is an unsafe amount to take, and it would be controlled in terms of what you're actually inhaling or
indeed. If you regulate it,
but where do you stop with that though? Because then, do you decriminalise heroin?
Well, this is the issue. I mean, I did see there's a graph that I saw online when I was researching this the other day, and it says about how many health-related incidences or incidences of violence are caused by different drugs, and the two drugs that were the least impactful in terms of health and your effect on other people was DMT. Magic mushrooms, and I think the third most one was LSD. So those are the least dangerous drugs to use, if you like, in terms of how you would maybe act upon someone else or the health impact it would have on you.
But there's been, I mean, I don't know it all, but there's been tons of research that just shows the kind of war on drugs we have at the moment just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And actually a lot of people think that, when you do a few lines of coke at a party, it's a completely victimless crime.
Yeah.
And it's not at all. Like the supply chain, the fact that there's like all this, I don't know if you've heard of county lines where like they're getting a lot of sort of struggling kids or whatever, and they use them as drug mules.
Yeah, this was in the news recently.
They take them and they go into sort of rural or suburban areas, and they're pushing drugs there. And
we're here,
in this country.
Yeah. So you get like sort of gangs that take they get young kids or whatever, 15, 18-year-olds, and they send them off. They're addicted themselves, and then they send them off into some abandoned house, maybe someone who's an addict there, and then they push all the drugs out from the big cities into the rural areas. So
that's an argument for regulating drugs.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all sort of decriminalisation.
Yeah.
I don't know what the technical boundary is, but I mean, just going back to the sort of news aspect of it, that's what really grinds my gears about. Shout out to
What's
Peter,
that from? That's
Peter
Peter
Griffin. But that's what pisses me off a lot about this blasé attitude. It is literally so what on the one aspect, there's a rank hypocrisy of what was it a couple of months ago when Diane Abbott got caught having a M&S mojito on the train or something on the overground, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe she's drinking on the overground." And Michael Gove's like, "Oh, I did a few lines of coke back in the day." MBD brew.
Didn't that flavour of like of the mojito didn't sell out? Yeah.
Everyone in Hackney went out and bought it.
Yeah.
So that there's massive hypocrisy there. Second aspect is like just it encourages this culture where middle class people can take drugs with like little awareness or acknowledgement of the sort of supply chain aspect.
Yeah.
Of what crime. It's not a sort of victimless crime. And then the third thing, and this is the biggest thing, is that it shows that if you're privileged and well off and you have the security of like decent family, a lot of money, privately educated, you can dabble in drugs and your life will still be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're not of that ilk, if you're not, if you're sort of working class or in poverty or whatever,
without a social safety net.
Without a social safety net, like a kid on my road, he's constantly getting nicked for like pushing weed, which is kind of minor. Whereas we potentially could have a PM who,
who's perpetuating that behaviour through their use.
I'm pretty sure that like some of the stories were saying that he was actually hosting parties where there were coke, so which is completely normal in a lot of circles. So it's very much sort of one rule for one sector of society and a completely other rule for other.
I mean, it is. I suppose it's the hypocrisy level of it when he himself was writing articles about stiffer punishments.
Yeah.
Michael Gove, I'm talking about, writing articles about stiffer punishments for drug users, drug sellers, all that sort of stuff. And then he's hosting parties if that's what he's doing. But I mean, come on, he's not the only one.
No, I mean, yeah, exactly. He's far from the only person.
Yeah. They're all. I'm sure most of them have.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
it's like the issue there with him, is it the hypocrisy or is it the fact that he took drugs?
I think it's the hypocrisy, because I think if you look at the nation and their sort of attitude to drugs, there's been countless polls about legalization of certain recreational drugs, and it always leans in the favour of decriminalisation or legalisation of these drugs, because I don't think the nation actually look at it or frown upon it as they once did many years ago. I mean, especially when you look at the cues that the United States are sending out at the moment. I mean, every year another state is legalizing the use of cannabis for recreational purposes, and we kind of do. I know we don't like to admit it, but we kind of do look to them in a way. In our own political system. I mean, it's only recently that we've
come to that later.
Yeah, I mean, it's only recently that we've actually legalized cannabis for medicinal purposes.
Yeah. Does that actually happen?
I think it has actually been passed. I mean, you have to be on death's door. I mean, you really do have to be.
I didn't know that.
Ed,
you'd run in a fact check there in your head.
Run a fact check.
No, I was actually looking. No, what I was actually looking for was percentage of Brits who've taken the drugs. I remember.
Oh right, okay.
I remember there was some sort of poll, and I think it was higher than people expected.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for that.
Well, I don't know if it's actually been passed through or it's going to be passed through, but it was definitely in the media that they are now using it for medicinal purposes. But the cases that they're using it for, the people are extremely sick. It's going to be difficult if you're saying I've got back pain to go to your doctors and say, can you prescribe me cannabis?
Damn.
And I think exactly. And I think it's only certain doctors, and it's usually specialist doctors, registrars,
that you
and
find around the corner.
It's not. Unfortunately, it's not them doctors. But no, I think it's like you have to. I think it's only neurological doctors and medical professionals that are allowed to prescribe it at the moment. So.
No, but I mean, my point was earlier, not to sort of. I'm not having a go. I don't think it's bad that people, politicians have dabbled in drugs.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine. I just think it is the rank hypocrisy, and the fact that it demonstrates that being involved in drugs or being involved in some sort of culture where it's legitimized taking drugs. It all depends on your context. So if you're well off, a professional, or whatever, it's like just what you do after you've had a few drinks at a party or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're from a different walk of life, it actually can ruin your life, or you can be put away for it. Like, I think it's, maximum, the strongest prison sentence is 7 years for taking coke, and an unlimited fine.
Yeah.
And Michael Gove could be a PM. Apparently, if you're caught taking coke, you can't be a teacher, whereas he was like Minister for Education.
Well, this is it, and he did a shit job.
Yeah, but all
That's
I'm
ironic.
saying is, it's a cruel irony, and it just demonstrates that it's all about the context in which drugs are taken.
Yeah.
I saw in the story about him, I saw that apparently he's had to deny that admitting to taking coke could get him banned from traveling to apparently, like, they in the American, like, the immigration, they ban people from.
It's on the Esther form.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Like, I think so. Basically, everyone be careful about what you admit to here.
I mean, America have always been notoriously strict on their policies for issuing visas. Anyway, it was only a few years ago that they actually started allowing people with HIV to enter the country.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when I was working for the Department of Health in one of the jobs that I used to do, it was actually a big thing amongst the community that we were supporting, which were people who were infected with HIV through contaminated NHS blood products. And it was a big thing for them to actually be allowed to apply for a visa without having to disclose your HIV status, and it being such a massive thing.
How long are we talking about?
This was not. I'm saying within the last 3-4 years.
God, that's appalling.
The Obama administration or Trump?
It was under the Obama administration.
Of course it was. That guy.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a massive thing, because a lot of the beneficiaries that we supported wouldn't actually go anywhere near America. You could go if you didn't disclose your status, but obviously if something happens to them when they're out there,
must have been what it might.
So the fact that they wouldn't allow you in if you did disclose that you were HIV positive, I mean, they're notoriously strict on who they hand visas to anyway. On the flip side, one of my friend's sons, he films comic conventions, and he went to the US Embassy for a 2-week visa just to go and shoot some stuff at the comic convention, and they ended up giving him a 10-year work visa. And he was like, I only want to go for 2 weeks, I don't want to work.
10-year work visa?
10-year work visa, he didn't even ask for it.
A great job.
Did he touch someone in immigration?
I don't know what he did, but he went there. Apparently, he's actually half Nigerian, and his Nigerian uncle went to the embassy to ask for a 2-week visa to visit the States, and he was rejected for no reason at all.
Yeah.
But his nephew, who's half Nigerian, went there and he got a 10-year work visa, and he didn't even request one. So
did he go back and say he was going to film Comic-Con?
They just said he's going for a holiday.
No, his uncle,
his uncle
to
to
go
go
back and say he was going to film Comic-Con, and then he got a 10-year.
And then he got a 10-year work visa.
Wear like an Avengers t-shirt or something.
Yeah, but I suppose the hypocrisy levels are crazy. It is crazy. At the end of the day.
Well, that's our politicians for you.
But yeah, I know. I mean, I don't necessarily see that this is going to end up in a landslide of people admitting to what they've done. No. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if they go up in the polls, then it probably will.
Well, maybe I suppose. Maybe. Yeah. Well,
and I bet he does go. up in the opinion polls
because people are going to look at it and think, "Oh yeah, what a down to earth geezer."
Yeah, what's it? What a down to earth guy. What a stand up guy.
Like one of us.
No, but I
don't think Michael Gold's ever been called a geezer before.
Exactly. In that article, he's literally saying that the move towards decriminalisation of drugs is all governed by people who feel a bit guilty because they've done the drugs themselves, and so to kind of quell that guilt, they're trying to change the law. He's like, we should resist that temptation. So he's literally writing a note to himself. He's like,
oh God,
Michael, don't feel bad. Yeah, you got this. Hold your nerve.
I think it's short-sighted for him to believe that, because I mean, a lot of people who probably want decriminalisation are probably looking at it from the perspective of it takes up a lot of our resources for the police to battle things that aren't necessarily that dangerous.
And beyond that, people don't get any of the help. You don't look at it as it can be as an addiction. So like if you just throw people in prison when they're a heroin addict or whatever, they get caught for petty shoplifting or something like that, they don't get any of the addiction support that they need. They don't get any of the like emotional, whatever, mental health support that you need to come off the addiction. And then someone's sitting in prison, clogging up a service, taxpayers' money, and then they're not getting the support they'll need. They'll be way more likely to reoffend when they come out.
I saw in Portugal they decriminalised all drugs.
Yeah,
all drugs.
Yeah, all drugs. Like,
really?
I think apparently in the article I read it said they wanted to help tackle the opioid addiction.
In Portugal?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm sure someone said to me the other day that it was okay in Portugal.
That's what I mean. It's okay now to go there.
Oh, they decriminalised it. You mean? Oh, right. Sorry, I thought you said they criminalised it. I was like,
I've heard that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard that recently that it was. Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Where do you stop? Because I mean, you can't decriminalise heroin. You can't, can you?
I don't know. I mean,
because that's like a life-destroying drug.
No, but I mean, decriminalise it and not sending someone to jail for doing it is very different than legalising it. Yeah. So, like, not sending someone to prison because they've been caught with heroin for personal use is very different than sending them to prison because they've been caught with heroin for personal use. Decriminalisation, I think, is actually a good idea in terms of.
So if someone's an addict, they would get support rather than being thrown in prison.
If you had mountains of the stuff on you, of course you'd go to prison because you'd be supplying. But if someone just had personal use on them, rather than sending them to prison, maybe they'd be made to go to a support group of some kind. Or
a bit of Percy.
Yeah, a bit of Percy. But that's it. Yeah, bit of Percy. It's only Percy.
What is that?
I don't get the joke.
We'll move on.
We'll move on.
Are these veggie Percy pigs?
Bringing back that classic, yeah. Is this some dark past that you guys don't want to share?
No.
It's just it's just slang term for personal.
If you were from the streets, Ed, you'd know that.
No.
Not in your
Ed's too middle class.
Yeah, private school upbringing.
Yeah.
I went to the same school as you, Mike.
You were there, but you weren't there, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't deserve to be there.
Absolutely did. But anyway, I suppose you make a good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, decriminalisation doesn't mean that you're promoting drugs in any way. I mean, if you're caught with a significant amount, you're still a criminal for supplying it. It just means that those people who do have addiction problems, can potentially access some services that can allow them to come off of the addiction. So, I think it's a good idea to decriminalise.
It's purely culture that stops us from
Indeed.
moving to that direction.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Like
just telling Shane to talk into his mic. Yeah.
Sorry, I was turning my head.
Anyway, no mean to stop your flow, Jazz. Carry on.
Yeah, that was it. I've run out of things to say, really.
Okay. That's very honest of you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, should we move on to Trump in the UK?
Yeah.
Trump in the UK. Let's do it.
On. I'm all for it. I love it.
Yeah, this is Michael. This is Michael's topic.
Geezer's a fucking legend.
I love that you said that.
Really?
I'm joking. No, of course he's not a legend, is it? I mean, let's be honest. He's a lunatic. He is a lunatic.
He is a lunatic.
And the one thing I will say is he was demonised for all of that. Grab her by the pussy and all that sort of stuff. I thought it was very much over the top.
In terms of him saying it, or in terms of him being...
The reaction, you mean?
The reaction. I thought the reaction was very much over the top. I thought it was.
How do you mean?
Well, I just thought that everyone blew it out of proportion because it's Donald Trump.
I think.
Plus, it was...
Yeah,
no, but to be quite honest, though...
he was the era that they was in, and to say those sorts of things...
In a private conversation.
Was
it the 90s or was it like
the 80s?
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was the 80s.
Yeah, I mean,
it definitely wasn't that long ago.
And I think you can't... The thing is, a lot of people say, "Oh, if we treat him harsher than we do other people, whatever." Like, other people are doing it, but you can't take the things he says from outside of his context. You know what I mean? Like, he might have said that in the 80s, but guaranteed he said it in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, he probably has. Yeah, he probably has.
You're saying it as we speak.
But what I'm saying is...
He's abusing someone right now.
Yeah. what I'm saying is, if you take the whole conversation, where he was saying about him being a celebrity and girls are drawn to him because of his status and all that sort of stuff, and grabbing someone by the pussy, I mean... Is it the worst thing that anyone's ever said?
No, and to be quite fair, it was before...
Is it the worst thing that anyone's ever said?
No, and to be fair...
But listen, let's not get twisted here. I am not a Trump supporter. I'm not sat here behind this microphone with a Make America Great Again. Because I'm not. Because I think the guy's a lunatic.
You've got it on your mantelpiece instead.
Yeah, well, I have no fireplace, you son of a bitch. Yeah, look around. There's no fireplace in it.
You win this round.
But no, the geezer is a lunatic. But I do think that was blown out of proportion because of who he is.
I kind of agree, actually.
I also think because he was running for president, and I suppose that office is meant to be like.
Yeah,
no, but you have to remember that these things were said before he was even in politics. I mean, it's like, don't tell me that Angelina Jolie's never said anything, like privately, that's gonna. Yeah, well, she could. You don't know. I mean,
I bet you she said that about Brad Pitt. Come here, let me grab your dick.
I mean, if it's in
an eyelid, Brad Pitt was like, "Yeah, man."
If it's in a private conversation before you're in the political realm, I think it's completely okay. I mean, I don't,
I think but what's associated with is the idea that he's like this big, it's a kind of like Me Too sort of stuff as well, where he's coming on to women half his age.
Yeah,
he's like this. I can imagine he's a pretty sleazy person to work around or be a boss around.
Oh yeah, without a question of a doubt.
I don't think this is some consensual, in the bedroom. Come on, Melania. I think this is him like in the 80s.
I bet he does talk to her like that.
Maybe
I bet he does.
One of my favourite things is the Free Melania, what's it called, campaign.
Like she's being held captive.
She does always look sad, doesn't she? She just looks.
Wouldn't you if you was married to the world's most hated man?
She knew she was doing that.
Yeah.
She didn't have to marry him.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Maybe
You're absolutely
she did.
right.
I don't know. Maybe
I think once he stops being president, I've got a feeling that she'll actually leave him, because she would have built up such a profile for herself anyway. I reckon she'll eventually.
But everyone almost feels sorry for her, don't they?
They do. Yeah.
She gets a lot of. She's getting a lot of
sympathy.
She's getting a lot of sympathy because obviously she's married to
a lunatic.
And the geezer's a lunatic. He is a lunatic. But I mean, is it really? I mean, is him coming over here? Is it really cause for protests?
No,
that's the big
I don't think it is.
Really a cause to waste your time and go out and I don't think so.
Well, I guess we know what you think about it.
But to be quite honest,
let's be honest, we've had worse people than that come over here.
But it's not even that. We have to remember that America are our biggest allies. Let's not forget that. You can't just scrub that away because of one president who's only going to be here for a finite time. They can only serve 2 terms. Like you don't want to destroy our relationship with America over a president who's potentially not going to be in charge in the next 4 years. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that we should be doing. So a state visit for Trump has to be done. Really, it's been done for every other president.
So I'm gonna disagree with you guys here. I think that it's something. It's not been done for every other president. So that's the thing. They have come over on like technical, like working visits or whatever. But Theresa May, when she went out there, because it was in the height of all the Brexit chat, she was like, "Oh, I need to make friends with the US. We'll get a good trade deal, whatever, blah blah blah. Let's extend a state visit." And they then coincide that with the 75-year D-Day anniversary. And my view is that it's completely inappropriate to have this big pomp and, making a big hullabaloo of him coming over here. Because he's basically, he doesn't give a shit about the UK or what kind of.
Of course he doesn't.
He cares about America.
Yeah. He's literally America first.
Yeah.
Like when he talks about making a great trade deal, or whatever, he's literally talking nonsense.
But
He'll forget about it.
so he should be, really. He's the president of the United States, isn't he? He should
country.
absolutely put his own country
he's
first.
He's a protectionist at heart. That's what he wants to do, right?
Yeah, I suppose a great.
But then the relationship with the UK is putting America first, because that relationship is.
I think he's just using it. He's basically wanting to put out a lot of imagery back there.
Yeah.
Don't forget, he's got to go for re-election next year.
Yeah.
And so he's just got all this propaganda, which is him, his family dining with the royal family, showing that the Trumps are sort of the US equivalent of royalty, which is what he wants.
So it's a PR exercise.
Yeah, I think it's a massive PR exercise. Apparently, he was. I heard a quote.
I'm loving his new haircut, by the way. I just want to say that.
Trump
The slick back look. Have you not seen it?
Oh yeah,
He's got rid of his fucking toupee. Like, and he's got the slick.
There was a quote of him saying, "Yeah, people have never seen the Queen has as much fun." So
Yeah.
Oh really? But you can kind of tell actually, because he does put out a lot on social media, and I didn't know this, but he actually he doesn't have a manager. He actually puts out his own content.
Yeah. No, it is.
He puts out his own content.
It's all of it.
It's Kofefi.
Yeah, and so I don't buy that. Like, in doing this, we've sort of ingratiated ourselves to him.
Yeah.
He's gonna look more favourably on some trade. Like literally, the UK in terms of our economy size in the US, we're like a tiny minnow.
Yeah.
Well, we're the fifth largest economy, aren't we?
We're sixth now.
Sixth.
Behind
Okay.
France.
Post Brexit, literally fell.
Yeah, but I don't know what the figures are, but like the US is like way.
Aren't they? They're first or second, aren't they?
They're
first.
They're
I think
first.
China are second.
But California will probably be in the top like 10 on its own. Really.
Yeah.
Like that's how.
Yeah.
It's California, Texas, New York are they're big.
When they're doing all those interviews about, is the NHS going to be in any part of a trade deal? I don't even think he knows what NHS is. I think he's like, yep, everything. And then someone's like, don't say that. And he's like, nope, nothing. He just flip-flops. Like, I literally, all he's interested in was getting some good photos with the royal family. And we've enabled that. And the other thing is about, yeah, you're right. There are lots of worse people who come over, but Trump is not someone who responds to dialogue. And the one thing he does respond to is when he's embarrassed.
Yeah.
When people take the piss out of him. And I think
so maybe it's a good thing that
that's what I'm saying.
the public are doing
that.
Then
They should.
But I mean, we had. I can't remember exactly how many years ago. I think I might have even been in the army when it happened. But the Sultan of Brunei came over to the UK and had a big state visit and whatever else. And hasn't Brunei just recently announced that homosexuality is punishable by death?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like their policies have changed over the last decade. I feel like that might all be the same thing. But this is what I'm saying. But no one. There was no protest then. All right, maybe it wasn't open knowledge about all these sorts of things. But I'm pretty sure if you was to dig even a little bit,
I think the reason for that is just because the Western world is expected to behave in a certain way, and when an Eastern power behaves in a certain way, it's almost like, well, we expect them to.
Yeah, it's all right because you're buying our arms.
Yeah. It's almost like we expect it, but because it's a Western country, as it's termed, it's almost like, well, you can't behave like that because we're meant to be setting an example. Blah blah blah. So it's almost like we make concessions for nations over in the East that we wouldn't necessarily do for Western nations, just because we expect them to behave in a certain way.
But America sets those standards as well. Like the world as it is kind of been shaped by them.
Yeah, they are the superpower.
You're right though, Mike. There is a massive inconsistency. Notwithstanding that, though, you sort of expect to hold the US to a higher sort of ethical and moral standpoint because of all the largely because of all the stuff they put out themselves. The sort of world's police, the superpower, whatever.
America, fuck yeah!
I love that film.
It's a brilliant film. It's a brilliant film.
But that's exactly what they're like.
Yeah.
That is like, as a nation, that's what they're like. Like when I went to New York. Me and Charlie went to New York, and they genuinely see themselves as the epicenter of the universe.
Yeah,
the United States as a whole, like that. New York is seen as the financial hub of the world, which it isn't.
No, London is.
But there's
for a little while.
But, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Every like me and Charlie, because we're pretty geeky and do all the sightseeing stuff and all that. Well, I say it's not geeky, it's what you do. But anyway, so you do the hop on and hop off bus thing, and every single corner you turn. We defeated the Brits here. on this such and such a day. We defeated the Brits over here on such and such a day. Or they're talking about 9/11. This happened over here, blah, blah, blah. And like we drove past where John Lennon was shot and no one said a word. Not one word. Not even like, oh yeah, there's the doorstep that John Lennon was British. But it was just like, oh yeah, we defeated the Brits over here and we defeated the Brits over here. And then you talk to them, but everything's
Were they
named
just
like,
saying that because they saw you and Charlie and...
No. But there was Americans on the bus as well.
It's because it's a massive part of their culture, isn't it?
You know, and it's just really over the top. And all that sort of stuff. All we needed was Born in the USA blaring from the back. It would have just been a full keg. Anyway, but yeah, they see themselves as the epicenter of the, and that's all Trump does. Trump plays to that, and but I mean, do you think some of it's an act? Do you think that's actually him, or do you think he plays to that crowd?
I think it's a dangerous combination of a cocktail of it being an act, but then I don't think
he's intelligent enough.
No, I think he might have a mental health condition.
I actually think that's true.
Like early onset of Alzheimer's or something, and he forgets stuff.
But sometimes you can see in his facial expressions when he's being asked certain questions, he has no idea.
No, he doesn't.
It's almost like he's got an earpiece that he's waiting for someone to tell him what the answer is.
That GIF is probably the greatest GIF of all time.
That one where he does.
And he just is fantastic. I love it. I love that GIF.
The only thing that this week made me feel, I don't really care that much about the protests or whatever. I just felt it's a little bit embarrassing for us as a country. Like, we're playing up to this, like, this guy who just doesn't care. Like,
I don't think we are playing up. I think it's the done thing, isn't it? These state visits. It is. I mean, like I say, I was in the household cavalry, so I've been on many state visits, and it is literally 1 or 2 a year. But you've had the president, the prime minister or the president of Turkey, and we had Obama came over and Bush came over.
Has Erdogan had a state visit? Has Erdogan had a state visit?
I think it was before him.
Oh right, okay.
I think it was before.
Well, it's always to the same level as well, Mike. As in the same.
Always the same ceremony.
No, not the actual. Okay, whilst I don't like the fact that he's using it as a PR exercise. The thing I find embarrassing is it then creates sort of 3 weeks of news coverage where we argue amongst ourselves whether America is going to give us the best deal, and you've got Piers Morgan talking about how
he's best mates with Trump.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be first in
Arsenal
line.
fan.
Exactly.
To be fair, he's the worst Arsenal fan.
He is. He's just the worst man.
I don't even think he's the worst Arsenal fan. I've met worse Arsenal fans.
He's the worst man ever, man. Piers Morgan is.
Yeah, there's
enough of the Arsenal chat, guys. Enough of the Arsenal chat. I have to flip this table soon.
Yeah, everyone's sort of saying, we're going to be first in line, we have to do all this stuff, and he literally doesn't care. Like, he comes in, says 3 things, and then forgets about it.
Yeah, he probably does. And at the end of the day, it's like you said before, Jazz. He's America, number one America, and
which is a fair one. Yeah, I mean that is a fair one.
I know, but I think we're a little bit deluded when we think of like the UK and the US, great superpowers going at. It's not
anymore.
Batman and Robin or something.
Exactly. We're not. We're not.
We're not even Robin. The Empire's finished now. When we had the Empire, it was obviously Britain was basically was basically the we were the world superpower. I think it's the biggest ever empire to ever exist.
Me and Jazz on behalf of Asia and Africa.
Yes, mate. Welcome, brothers.
As Trump himself would say, like, those days are over, folks.
Yeah, well, that's it. It is over, and we have to admit that. I mean, even Japan have a larger economy than us now. So I mean, it's mental.
It's almost like us being members of a certain football club who haven't had any success for sort of 15, 16 years.
Yeah, similar to a certain football club.
I think 15, 16 years, or what about 60, 70 years?
We can
I never said a word.
Yeah,
I did not say one word.
I just saw an easy target.
That was a good drop. I like that.
But yeah, so I just thought the whole thing was a
little bit... fuck Chelsea.
Fair enough. But I just thought the whole thing was a little bit... it made me feel a bit sad for us, really.
But as far as state visits go, I mean, they are all the same layout. You do the whole thing at Horse Guards Parade, the household cavalry involved with the horses and all that sort of stuff. And then they have the big state banquet that night, or maybe it's the night before, I can't quite remember. And you even have soldiers that go down there and line the steps, because I've done it. I've done it for Bush when he came over. You know, all that sort of thing. And it's always the same process. And like I say, there's been the president of Turkey before, right back to, I think it was before him. I'm sure it was.
Because I don't see us giving Erdogan a state visit.
And right back, I'm pretty sure, as far as I can remember, back to Clinton. had one, and everyone's had one after that. Bush and
just a little
Obama.
sidestep, but you know, like you mentioned Erdogan, yeah. Like, do you hear he was Özal's best man at his wedding?
Shut up! Are you being serious?
Was he actually?
For real?
How do they know each other?
Well, you know, there was that controversy prior to
Yeah, I remember that.
Because they're both Turkish Muslims, aren't they?
he's got Turkish descent.
No, but I've heard some of Erdogan's policies is ridiculous, like not allowing people to have proper educations and only teaching them
that's why they
Islam
tried to
in
do
schools.
the coup. Was that about 4 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah.
They tried to be a military coup and overthrow him, and it all got.
Yeah, I was
rumbled.
sure that he was stopping people from learning subjects, and they could only learn Islam, and like there was stuff like that he was doing over in Turkey, which was just crazy.
Might have to fact check that. No offense, Shane. I just don't know.
No, this is coming from a Turkish friend of mine.
Okay,
I haven't checked it myself, but he was saying that was one of the reasons why people were so against Erdogan.
I know he was
because
There is a lot of.
he was trying
my
to basically.
barber is Turkish,
Okay.
and he hates him.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the ilk of like these strongmen leaders who are like authoritarian.
Yeah.
You know, like crushing sort of minority rights, pushing a certain agenda. I don't know.
The Mussolini type.
Yeah. Or like, there's
Seems to be in vogue these years.
Yeah.
Who, Mussolini?
No, like the strongman leader, isn't it? Yeah.
Who's the president of Hungary or prime minister?
I don't know. Yeah.
Orban.
Viktor Orban. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got Modi in India.
Yeah. Is he on that level though? Would you say?
I would say he is, but a lot of people, he's popular with a lot of people.
There's like, was it far right Hinduism or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a history of of violence against
Muslims.
Muslim minority.
Yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs of it, but there was some violence
In India?
In India.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. But he's at the same time though, he's like completely. A lot of people see him as like very staunchly anti-corruption, anti-big business. He was like a charwala, like a tea guy from the beginning, and he's completely not privileged and worked his way up.
Right.
Sounds a bit like Putin's like that, isn't he, in Russia?
Yeah.
Did you ever see that video circulating when he went to that big corporation? I can't remember what exactly it was. I think it might have been energy or steel or something. But he personally himself went down to the main office building and because they were, I think they were skimming off of their own employees and taking cuts of wages and stuff like that. And he basically made them all sign a contract to give all the money back that they owed and all this sort of stuff. And if they didn't sign it, then there would have been consequences.
See, that's great.
Imagine what the consequences
There's a
were.
video.
That's great.
No top.
no, he rode in on a horse with no top.
But you said
That's the new type of politics, capitalist communism.
There was a video. So it was filmed.
very true.
It was filmed and everything. Him in the boardroom, sitting down at the head of the table.
Because I only
talking
raised
to these
that
guys.
point because a video. I imagine that's probably just a PR exercise, PR stunt. Because was it the
Yeah.
Panama Papers? Didn't he have like 200 billion or so stashed abroad or something like that? He had a lot of money.
Who, Putin?
He probably does. Yeah,
So for him,
because
to do
there was
that,
a bit of friction between him and one of the guys who didn't really want to sign, and it got a bit like, you fucking sign it, mate. Or,
Did he get his judo gi out?
Well,
It was just such an obvious PR video where he like stops a bullet with his hand.
if he did ride up the stairs on a horse with no top on.
Yeah, like break the door down.
But no, check it out. If you have a look online, it's a bit, It might be a
We have
PR
to put a
stunt.
link in bio to that.
Yeah. It might be a PR stunt. I don't know, but
I just imagine if it's not, it's very like. Well, it talks about hypocrisy earlier, isn't it? So
yeah. But I find they all are though, aren't they?
yeah,
A lot of world leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's moving to that like as people's living standards go lower, like price of commodities go higher, work is harder to come by. You've seen a lot of people sort of elect strongman leaders to make the problems go away.
And they don't. They just perpetuate it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a rise of populism, really.
Yeah.
Is Trump still here?
No,
Is he gone now?
I think so, I believe so.
Yeah, he was in France a little
Yeah,
while
and he
ago,
went to
wasn't he?
Ireland as well. Didn't he?
They
Yeah,
went
which-
to Ireland. Oh yeah, I saw
God.
him pulling pints of Guinness behind a bar. Oh, that's true. I saw that. Yeah, his two sons.
No, that was the best thing of the whole his whole trip that I've seen, where he's standing with the Taoiseach, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys got a border problem. We got a border problem too. We're gonna make a wall. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be like, don't worry, you guys gonna make a wall. It's gonna be great too." And then someone was just, they don't want a wall. And he's like, "You're not gonna make a wall. Don't worry, it's gonna be great." And That's what I mean. It just proves that he just does not care.
Yeah, and the border problem is the fact that they don't want walls.
What did he do? Cut to his two sons behind a bar in Dublin, like pulling their own Guinness.
The guy, the Taoiseach's face is like, "Are we having a wall? We don't want that." And he's like, "No, you don't want that. It's gonna be great. I never said we're gonna have one." Fake news.
All the Irish are sitting there like, what the fuck is going on?
Wasn't it in the Sun ran an interview the day before he arrived where he calls like Meghan Markle nasty?
Yeah.
And then someone asked him about it. He's like, "No, I never said that. It's fake news." And you're like, how do you talk to this guy? Like, how do you?
I don't get like why does everyone hate her?
Because she's black.
Is it that? Is it?
No, I'm joking. I don't know. I'm joking. I'm completely joking.
I don't think everyone hates her.
I don't hate her.
I've got no feelings either way towards her.
Yeah.
She's a pretty. She's pretty anonymous to me. I mean, like, it's just
But I think what there's rumours, isn't there, that she's caused a bit of waves within the royal family. Like, apparently she caused.
Her and Kate don't get on, do they?
There was an argument between her and Kate, which then descended into an argument between William and Harry. And apparently, William and Harry haven't spoke for months. Or they have now.
Daily Express,
You're really getting into Hello Magazine.
Yeah.
No.
It's an interesting talking point, though, because
Hello Magazine.
It's Charlie.
This is just.
I've heard that as well. Yeah.
But I like I say, I don't feel either way about her.
But I mean, yeah, just weird. Why come over and say that? Like, what's? Yeah.
But I think what you're alluding to is the dislike of her from the States. Is it? I don't know much about
people
it.
It just seems weird. That
Maybe they don't like her over there. I don't know.
Yeah, but why? What has she done? I don't understand.
I do think that Trump is genuinely racist.
Yeah.
I
think he is.
Like, despite all his flimmy changing, because in the beginning he was a Democrat, now he's a Republican. He changed his mind about everything. He has been he's shown sort of to say.
Doesn't his family have connections to the KKK as well?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they do.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Surprise me. I mean, they don't look like a very smart bunch, do they? The sons and that. I mean, come on. What they call Jed and. Isn't one of them Donald as well?
Yeah,
Donald Jr.
Yeah.
And who calls your son Donald?
Isn't one of them called Baron?
Yes.
How many has he got?
I think his youngest one's called Baron, isn't it?
Three sons.
Yeah,
and Ivanka.
Who's there? There's Jed. It's Jed, isn't it? Or Judd?
No, isn't
Are
Jed?
you thinking of Jared, the son-in-law?
Yeah, Jared is the son-in-law.
Oh, okay.
I think there's Trump Jr., there's Baron.
Isn't it Donald Jr.?
And there's Donald. Oh, there's Donald Jr.
He's just called Trump.
Baron.
Trump, come here.
Ivanka, who he actually did say that he would have her if he wasn't if it wasn't his daughter.
Yeah, I think there's some serious
mental health issues.
Are they from around the New York area?
Yeah, they're fiercely
Well, I'm
New York.
thinking like maybe down south somewhere.
Cornwall.
Cornwall, Norfolk. They all like that sort of thing, that they in Norfolk.
Six fingers and that.
Wait, allegedly.
allegedly.
Well, all his
Is it
money
though?
comes from his dad, though. He's not self-made. He'll propose.
No, so
he's like,
didn't he?
No, but he did say that, didn't he?
He said
I've come from nothing. I got a
so-
small loan of $1 million.
Yeah, that's it. It was $1 million loan that he got from his dad, but that was
I built
nothing.
myself up.
Yeah.
No, mate, you got $1 million from your dad.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm sure that's all you've got.
But I watched. There was a thing about him. There was a big TV. I think it was like a 4-part TV show that was maybe last year or the year before it was on, and it was basically his rise as to being like a because he was like a buildings and all that sort of. What's the word I'm
he's
looking
in
for?
construction.
Yeah, like
Wasn't it Manhattan?
Yeah, but he was like
yeah.
a construction tycoon at one stage
Yeah.
when he was huge, massive. He had loads
He
of.
bought a lot of property when New York in the 80s and 90s when no one was investing in New York.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but it was just basically his rise to becoming the president of the United States.
He actually did well with the properties that he did buy. Actually, he did very well with it. But it was Daddy from Daddy helping
it was Daddy's
him,
money initially. Obviously, the small loan of $1 million, and
back then as well, that would have been huge.
There was an interview with him that said, and this was in the 80s as well, maybe early 80s, like 82, 83, and he said. Someone said to him about running for president of the United States, and he went, "Listen, if the day ever comes that I run for president, I'll win." And that was in like 82.
And didn't he say something like he would choose Republicans because they're stupid enough to vote for him?
Yes, he did say that.
I'm sure he said. Yeah, I'm sure he said that.
Yeah,
Because
he
I
has said that.
remember seeing that story, then I saw another debunking it, saying it's fake news.
But
Is that actually
he
true?
literally
That's probably his
invented,
office.
That's probably him that debunked it, though. This is fake news.
Yeah.
Is that your Trump impression? do that again.
No, I'm not doing it again.
But yeah, I read that article where he actually does say it's not an article that he says it in, but I think someone quotes us saying that he said that he would actually choose the Republicans because they'd be the supporters that are stupid enough to vote for him.
I feel like that was in that documentary.
It might have been.
That might have been the same interview.
Yeah.
He was actually a member of the Democrats in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like a pro-business Democrat, and then he changed his mind. Like, the guy invented doublespeak from the book, like, 1984. Where he says one thing and something else. It's
That's a great book, George Orwell. We'll plug that one.
Because he did, there was in that thing, if you're interested, watch it. I'm sure you could get hold of it. I can't remember what it was called. Or maybe it's like it's like Trump, businessman to president or something, whatever it was. But basically, it goes right back to the 70s. And he went to war with, like, the mayor of New York, because they wouldn't grant him X amount of funds for buildings and stuff like that. And he was just as a businessman. I mean, he's pretty damn good, to be fair.
And that's I think that was his that was one of his strengths in his election. That's where he was approaching it from. He's not a politician. He's a businessman. He wanted to get the coffers back in good shape for America and all of that sort of stuff.
Make America great again.
Well, this is it, and I think that was most of his political campaign was about I'm a businessman.
I can't, to be honest, I can't stand that when people are like, I'm great at negotiating. I manage businesses. Send me in. Like, why is it that society has such a fascination with businessmen being great leaders?
I know.
Like, don't get me wrong. He's made a lot of money from a lot. He's turned a lot of money into an incredibly large amount of money. But I work in property sector, and if you've got money, property is the way that you can increase your small amount of wealth into a large amount of wealth. And you don't need to be the
smartest guy.
Yeah, you can get lucky. A lot of people can do it that way. And the idea that, and we have it over here where people like Jeremy Hunt and all these other people run in to be prime minister. They're like, send me in. I'm great at negotiating. I've done business. I'm not a career politician. And it's like, maybe you want someone who's done something else in their life. Like, we want people with experience, but why do we think business? And it's always businessmen who are supposed to be like the greatest leaders.
And what is wrong with a career politician? I don't know. I've never understood
just
what
for the record. It's fake news. He didn't say that in the interview. He didn't.
Okay. Do you know?
Yeah. It was. I think it's just something that got circulating in 2015.
Thank you, fact check.
Yeah,
Cheers, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks for coming.
Fuck you, Mike.
Make the tea on the way.
But who's debunking it?
Throw it in your face, Mike. Yeah.
Who's debunking it? Is it a credible source?
It's like PolitiFact.
But it is. I mean, it's really easy to be a politician in the United States, isn't it?
Pretty much.
In the sense where, I mean, look, a businessman is now the president of the United States.
Who
powerful man?
Who has questionable intelligence, in my opinion. And he won. Like, it is crazy.
That's what I'm saying. It is literally. Do you not feel though that as an entirety? I mean, it was a bit of a rock and a hard place with him and Hillary Clinton. For the American people.
I think Hillary is infinitely more intelligent than Donald Trump.
No, I'm not talking about intelligence. I'm talking about as in presidential material. Do you not think that for the American people it was a bit of a rock and a hard place, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump?
I don't know.
I don't think.
I don't know.
I don't think
because there's a lot of people. I've spoken to quite a lot of Americans, like because we went to New York when the campaign was going. It was right at the height of their campaigns, and basically a lot of people that we spoke to whilst we were there, and people that I've spoke to over here as well, said that the United States would have been at war with Russia within a year of her taking office.
Yeah, but this is just coming from political lay people.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know either way because
and beyond that as well, New York is not an even sample because and I would have thought New York would be pro Clinton because of the type of people.
But I don't really think I can't remember speaking to one person who wanted Hillary to take office.
I mean, if you ask me to choose between Hillary and Trump, I will be choosing Hillary.
Yeah, was it a 4chan chat room or something like that? Is that what you?
Are you trying to be funny?
Yes.
Failed there, didn't you?
Right, anyway, moving on.
Yeah, is that tea ready yet?
But I think the other one way you can compare the US and the UK is that they're both they're going through what we are on a much bigger, much more painful scale. In that, the way they've having lived out there, the way they've created their industry, the way they've set out their country, it's all on fossil fuels. It's all on declining industries like manufacturing and things like that. They're going to wane, and the amount of restructuring that the country needs, none of the big deep issues are going to be addressed by the policies that Trump puts.
No, because all he's done is he's just increased those things. He's increased manufacturing. He's brought back the steel. He's
pumped in some short-term money.
Yeah.
But and I think to your point, Mike, Hillary wasn't speaking about those bigger injustices or those bigger issues in the same way we don't have people talking about it here. And you had Bernie Sanders talking about it.
I love Bernie Sanders.
And actually, weirdly, you got there was a fact that quite a few Bernie Sanders voters, when he lost the nomination, they went and supported Trump because they were saying that people want something radical.
And Bernie would have given that. Yeah,
they don't want business.
Hasn't he run in like every presidential election since the start of time?
Bernie Sanders.
Maybe he is about 500.
But he has hasn't he run in like?
No, isn't that other dude who the one who stood against? Oh, what's his name? I know who you're thinking of.
I thought it was Bernie Sanders that has run in every single, not every, obviously, since Lincoln.
Aren't you talking about the Republican dude who's who's a veteran? What's his name? I think you're talking about him.
I don't know.
John McCain.
Is it John McCain? Yeah, you're thinking of
McCain? No.
No.
I don't know. No,
I think isn't McCain running quite a lot?
Yeah, he ran against.
Because isn't
Obama.
it Bernie Sanders that's made loads of money from campaigning, from running for presidents?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm sure I read that somewhere.
Might have to do a fact check, mate.
Yeah, maybe. I think because someone said that he's actually made a small fortune out of it.
From running campaigns.
Yeah, for X amount of times.
I would have been happy if he was the next president, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it was just a bit of a thing where a lot of people that I've spoken to or did speak to at the time were almost a bit like, well, fucking hell, it's Trump or Clinton. You know, what's the lesser of the two evils type thing? I don't know.
A lot of people didn't like the fact, they don't like the idea that they call it, like crooked Hillary, which I don't know where that comes from, but they didn't like the idea that it's a sort of political dynasty where it was, her husband was running and then she took.
But there is the rumour that she run the country anyway, didn't she?
But they didn't mind him with Bush.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't mind him with Bush.
No, but there is that thing, isn't there, where actually Clinton was more of just like a face. And she was actually.
You mean Bill?
In the Oval,
yeah.
She was like in the Oval Office.
I don't know. I mean, it is a bit. I do think.
Apart from when Monica was there, obviously. She was shopping then.
There is a bit of misogyny about it, though. It's weird that like her husband has an affair and that she gets the
stick for it. Yeah.
Like people are like, oh, you couldn't even keep your husband.
Yeah.
It's just like what? How
couldn't even keep your husband in check.
Jokes. That sounds like a playground insult.
Honestly, it's kind of nonsense, really.
No, it is. She has paid the price for his infidelity.
Damn you, Hillary! Yeah. You couldn't even keep your husband's dick to yourself. You couldn't
even grab him by the pussy.
Why didn't you get him to grab me by the pussy?
Yeah, American politics as a whole.
It's really strange. It's really strange.
I feel like that's why we're having so many fact check.
But I've not even literally. I mean, like I say, when we was in New York, it was just literally passing comments with people and just chatting and whatever else.
You see it on a lot of TV interviews as well.
They were all for Trump. I think they literally just
wanted something different.
Yeah,
but wasn't there a lot of people? Wasn't there a lot of people that abstained from voting as well? Because Sanders didn't win.
Say that again.
Wasn't there a lot of people who abstained because Sanders didn't win? Yeah.
There's definitely a parallel between what's going on there and what's going on here.
Corbyn as well.
With Corbs, like people looking to either the right or the left.
Yeah.
Something different.
Yeah, and the split in with centre ground are no longer. You've had basically during Tony Blair and George Bush, and then later Cameron and Obama, you had a coalition of centre ground for basically 20 years, and in that time, in both the UK and the US, you've had a lot of people in places that are losing economy, deindustrialized places like the Rust Belt or the North, or even along the East Coast, and places like South Wales, where they've seen their work, like their factories close down, their benefits get squeezed, and they're looking for a different answer now.
And the thing is, I don't think there is a different answer. I think it's just sort of more of the same, but tweak it a bit. I don't think you can look to the left or the right for the answers because they're just not there. They just don't lie there.
Yeah, wow.
It inevitably just makes it worse and divides the country.
Martial law. That's what we should have.
Everyone get a gun, yeah?
No,
martial law's when the army take over.
The army are deployed onto the streets. Let's fucking do it.
What's when everyone gets a gun? What's that law?
That's America.
Yeah, that's America.
Civil war, isn't it?
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Civil war.
Civil war. God, our country wouldn't survive a civil war. Oh.
Okay.
All right.
Oh.
Nah, yeah. But
You'd have half against half, and then we just wipe each other
This
out.
might be like a topic for another pod, but is it our only choices what's said on the left and what's said on the right? Is it literally just like a one side of? Is there not?
no, but you need. Yeah, but
Thanks very much, Change UK Ed.
yeah.
That worked out well.
but, you know, I mean,
Thanks, Jazz,
I think eventually I feel like it's going to be something not radical. I'm not going to use the word radical because I don't think that's a very good word, but I think it's going to be something very different.
Coming from either the right or the left.
Well, necessarily, I don't even know whether it's going to come from the right or left. Maybe somewhere central. Maybe I don't know, but I think it's going to be some. I think it's going to be something different because, like, a lot of people I've spoke to about Brexit voted for Brexit to destabilise the government, as in to bring, because the corruption within the politics at the moment and the way that basically they feel like wholesale change is needed.
But I mean,
They're not happy with their life.
Basically. So they voted for Brexit purely because
to throw a spanner
in the works and to shake it all up, which seems to have happened. Yeah.
I mean, like,
What has happened is the spanner's got stuck.
Yeah, the Spanish. So I feel like maybe. I mean, look at the Americans. The Americans wanted something completely different, so they went for Trump, who is
Trumpington.
a lunatic. Yeah, I'm not saying we're going to go the same way.
but when I'm talking about
we
right
might
or
get
left,
Boris.
though,
Oh, mate, Boris.
but when
yeah.
I'm talking about right or left, say
Yeah.
like defining
Policies, you mean?
But I mean defining the right and defining the left. Like we're going either economically or socially. Is it always?
Well, at least that gives people a
But-
choice. I mean, what we had before, when everyone was in the central ground, is you had an homogenisation of the political parties because they weren't offering much variance
but
between
I mean,
them.
like, say if you define it by like economics, so on the left we have like say communism or
Social
totalitarian, and then
policies,
on
yeah,
the right
yeah.
you have say like maybe free market.
Yeah, free market.
But is
Yeah.
that, are they the only
Corporate
thing?
small government.
Is it always? Are they even one and the other? Is there not? We look at it
A
like-
middle ground.
Amalgamation, is there
but
like
we-
that?
I would say that we've had that.
But I mean,
middle
like, we
ground
look
for
at
30
lines.
years.
We look at one line and another. Is a line the right shape that we should be looking to just like define politics?
I would argue that we've had.
What,
30
instead of a
years
circle?
that.
Yeah, maybe I know a triangle. I don't know. Is there like?
Yeah,
is
no,
there
I
another
see what
point?
you're saying.
Not so
So-
much.
yeah.
No, but I think
Give a
the political spectrum.
I don't know, but I mean, like, say
The
not-
political
not so
spectrum
much-
already is a circle because you know when they say right and left, the
Yeah.
further you go, the more they come together
But
anyway.
not necessarily.
So
I mean, like a different. If like we have a line of like on the left and line on the right.
You're asking about whether we're thinking it about in the
Yeah,
right
like
terms.
is there something which isn't just like an amalgamation, like as you said, Shane? Is there
Thinking
something-
outside the box.
Is there something else besides like communism on one side or like
I mean,
free
I wouldn't
markets on
say.
the other?
I wouldn't say that.
Free love.
anarchy.
Let's go back to the 60s. Free love.
I wish we could, mate.
Let's
but
do it.
I don't think it's on the
None of
card.
us were around.
My nan had a whale of a time.
Me and Ed might
Yeah,
struggle.
yeah.
Oh no, we won't go back in that sense.
We wouldn't be able to get the bus with you.
I have to sit at the back.
What's that? No dogs, no blacks, no Irish.
That's it.
That's why you want to go back, isn't it?
Nah, man. Free love. We were talking about LSD. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. That's what we should do.
Everyone
Put
grow
all the
their hair
politicians
out,
on
rub wash
LSD.
for a while.
Let them have some spiritual
Woodstock.
awakenings on LSD. Hopefully they'll come forward with some better politics.
I don't know, Ed. I mean, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but I mean,
I think the only thing that pushes the reset button is revolution.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
that's a bit strong.
No, I mean, look. You're gonna say this is like super left wing, but I actually think that
That's super left wing.
It is. Yeah. This is in our country anyway. Like a lot of the answers lie in sort of redistributing a lot of the wealth, a lot of the power structures, giving people more say over their politics. So a lot of Brexit as well comes from people not liking decisions being made in Westminster, and then later in Brussels. And they see a lot of people voted against Brexit because they thought Westminster had too much power. So it's about how you basically allow people to how people are made to feel as if they have more of a stake in how their life is run.
So maybe we need something where we actually hold the politicians to account. So, for instance, the whole makeup of the political system is that the people will vote for a representative to represent their interests. That's how it works.
That's how our system
So
works, yeah.
if, for instance, there's a manifesto from a particular party that says they're going to do X, Y, and Z, maybe they have to fulfil 80% of that. Otherwise, they have a disadvantage at the next election. So it pushes them to fulfil the policy. Well, how else do you do it? Because these people voted these people in, so they're disgruntled by the fact that they haven't actually fulfilled their promises.
But sometimes, though, you have literally contradictory manifesto pledges. Like, you can talk about Brexit, where Theresa May was like, we're going to keep the Irish border open and we're going to pursue our own trade policy, and the two they've been found to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, you can't have the both.
You have an invisible technological border which doesn't exist yet. You can't do both. And you can always there's so many statistics out there where they say, oh, we've schools per pupil funding has gone up or per pupil funding has gone down. It's like, who's right about this?
But maybe if these systems were in place to begin with, then they wouldn't have these contradicting policies.
I think the biggest thing is first past the post, where you get basically now no one can vote. A lot of people won't be able to vote Brexit Party or Lib Dems or Greens or anybody, because they'll just say, the Tories will come out and say, vote Brexit Party, get Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't they feel like their vote doesn't matter, because you're either going to end up with Tory or Labour, and what if you don't want that?
Yeah.
So what if there was a different structure where you had, I don't know, regional assemblies or whatever, and it was more of a
devolve it. So devolve it into states, essentially.
Possibly, and like you then vote sort of for a representative of your region, and then they represent you in.
So that's the American system, essentially.
Possibly,
yeah.
or they were to do like radically reform the House of Lords, so that was an elected second chamber.
Yeah.
The other thing is you could have a lot of different infrastructure spending. So actually, these places were able to raise tax and spend it out the way they wanted, so they can improve their trains or bring in business there or things like that.
Maybe that is maybe devolution. It's called Max Devo, isn't it? But you have to devolve to states. Max Devo is for the region, for
the other countries. But yeah, if they were they were able to raise their taxes, they were more accountable, then they could decide
a county system. So for instance, a county government.
Yeah, maybe more of a region than a county.
Yeah,
cause
so like the southeast and the north and the northeast.
Otherwise, you'll get like Farmer Brown saying, someone so and so stole my 2 chickens.
I want him out.
You alright, Mike?
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
I'm just going to turn the oven back on.
Alright, cool.
Oh, can you get me some? I want some now. Get me a bowl of some stew, please.
Alright, before we go, did anyone watch the Joshua fight last week?
Oh, the Joshua fight. I actually missed it, but I did see the highlights and
the full fight's on YouTube. Actually, Sky Sports.
Is it on it's not mirrored, is it?
Put it on.
So it's not mirrored.
Yeah, it's the legit thing. They put it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. But wow, shock to say the least.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because he didn't prepare for that fight and he was preparing for a different fight?
I think he was up for the Miller fight because Miller was chatting so much shit, and then when that kind of fell through, and this guy who doesn't look the part came through, I guess he was maybe just taking it lightly.
I agree. And it's the problem.
Someone said that he was concussed.
Yeah, I think
before the fight because he got knocked out, didn't he, in a sparring match?
Well, that's I don't know if that's true or not, but
there was other things that he had a panic attack before the first round. Loads of. And to be fair, he didn't look comfortable.
Nah.
And when he sat in was it round 6 or round 5 when he sat in the corner and he said to his trainer, "Why do I feel like this?"
Yeah, he said a lot of strange stuff. Like, he said, like, "What do I do next?" Or
maybe he was concussed.
Maybe. I mean, there was.
But also, I've always found that when they have these standing fighters, that you've been training, you've been doing your camp for like 6 weeks, trying to fight in a certain style against a certain opponent. That opponent gets done for drugs, and then you're fighting someone completely different. You haven't got the time to...
Someone whose training regime was in Greg's.
Well, yeah. But you haven't got the time to like sort of refocus and try and to develop a technique that's gonna work against this new standing that's just come along.
Doesn't he have a Snickers deal now or something like that?
Oh, mate, I'm not being funny though. What a guy. I mean, you know what I mean? Look at his body, and he bashed up the world champion.
He did, indeed.
You stopped going gym.
First ever Mexican heavyweight champion.
Absolutely. I've reinvested my wealth into Burger King. I say wealth, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, what a geez. And it was just literally that up. But he's always struggled with that sort of punch.
He struggles
with shorter, stockier guys.
And over the top. Caught him on the back of the head, wasn't it?
Yeah,
on the top of the head.
He does struggle with shorter, stocky guys.
Ruiz is good. Like I think, like in his post Mayweather era, everyone concentrates too much on the O's, like not losing, not having lost. But the fight he did have a loss in wasn't really a loss. I think like he lost in New Zealand to Joseph Parker, the world title, and I think a few weeks later the head of the New Zealand Boxing Commission resigned, citing that result was a disgrace as well. So it kind of tells its own story, really. You know, like he was a good fighter, and
well, that's the bandwagon's done now. He's not.
Parker. I don't know. Like, I think if Joshua boxed the same fight,
isn't he?
Yeah, what as a person? I mean,
yeah, a bit.
Yeah. But I suppose if Joshua boxed the same like fight he boxed with Parker, he could have won. Just kept mind the jab, kept in control.
If he went for a points win, but he didn't, did he? He went for
Wilder,
a knockout.
Knocked out Brazil like a few weeks before, and like it's a bad knockout as well. Like it's pretty bad.
He's crap. I don't even know how he's getting world title shots.
Who?
Brazil.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, he made some deal.
How's he getting title shots? I don't even know.
I don't know. Like White should have got that title shot.
Yeah, definitely, without a question of a doubt. White's been putting people down.
Yeah.
I literally have nothing to contribute.
I have very little. I'm not a huge boxing fan, but yeah. Do you know the one good thing though is it took the shine off the Tottenham Liverpool game?
It did indeed.
Absolutely.
For some people anyway. Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Like so, Jazz, you don't watch boxing at all, no?
I saw Creed 2.
I haven't seen that yet. I've seen Creed 1. I've not seen Creed 2. Is it good?
I've not seen either.
Oh, really?
Is it good, Creed 2?
It's alright, yeah. I mean, as good as you think it's going to be. Like, I was
because I quite liked Creed 1. I thought,
it's what if you like Creed 1.
I did like Creed. I think it was better than Rocky, to be fair.
Yeah.
Creed is good. Yeah, I liked Creed.
I mean, if you want, it's not going to challenge your worldview on
No.
but it's quite fun. I mean, I watched John Wick 2 last
night. See, I've not even seen the first one, so...
I can't believe they made 3 John...
Is it good?
I can't believe
Is it about his dog?
Yeah. I mean, the whole... Basically, the film can be summarised as Keanu Reeves is hard.
I actually love Keanu Reeves. I don't know why, because he's not a particularly great actor, is he? But I absolutely adore him for some strange reason.
He's probably the worst actor.
He is the worst actor ever.
And the thing is, the one film that I've ever seen him in, I mean, he's all right in John Wick. I've only seen the first one, though. The one film I've actually seen him in where I thought it was an outstanding performance was The Day the Earth Stood Still, and that is because he plays a Martian, and
he's weird,
an emotionless Martian.
He's good in The Matrix as well. But The Matrix, I like The Matrix quite a lot.
Have you seen The Matrix, Ed?
Yeah, of course, mate. Of course. Point Break.
Yeah, Point Break.
Point Break I liked Point Break as well, actually.
Yeah, but still, it's a classic film, isn't it? And Bill and Ted as well.
Shout out to Patrick
In fact, he was good in Bill and Ted, to be fair. He did play that role.
That's basically
the airhead. He did play it. He played himself.
I think you're all getting a little bit confused here with great films and great acting. Because Point Break is a great film. Yeah, The Matrix, the first one, is a great film. The second and third one's a bit toilet. John Wick was okay. The Day the Earth Stood Still was okay. But in all of he's not. I mean, how many Oscars?
He's very one-dimensional. He is very.
How many personal awards has he ever won for acting?
I don't know.
None.
But Brad Pitt's never won an Oscar. We'd all say he's a pretty good actor, wouldn't we?
Well, he's all right. He's got a nice bod.
Oh, Snatch was good. I mean, he was pretty good in Snatch.
Who's Snatch? Oh, Snatch. Sorry. Yeah, he was all right in that. He was all right. Yeah.
I like Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's not too bad. I've only just got that.
I've only just got it.
Bloody hell, Shane.
Sorry, a bit slow today.
The life of a married man.
Is that true, Jazz? No comment.
He couldn't possibly comment. Absolutely not.
All right, on that note,
Yeah. We'll call it.
See you later, folks.
Yeah.
Bye.
I should say, before we go, one more thing, Thank Pirate Blood for doing our music. Also,
shout out.
The podcast available on Spotify now, so check out there as well.
And YouTube.